Hey, this is Brian Saintt, head coach of the Minnesota RØKKR, and today we are hopping into another episode of Coach's Corner. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about our Game 4 Hardpoint, Moscow against the Paris Legion from Stage 4. It was a really scrappy map that came down to the last few seconds, so it was a pretty exciting one. We made a bunch of mistakes in this map, but luckily we were able to pull it out in the end and ultimately close out the series 3-1.
The time stopped at 27 seconds. 2:41 to 2:47. Have Minnesota done just enough? Paris, they have to go for the break. There's one. There's the second. 2:48. Have Minnesota done it? And they have.
So on Moscow Hardpoint, the P1 is going to be in the dead center of the map on the statue. Even though it's a bit of a scrappy hill, there's a lot of instances when you can get a pretty good hold on it, since a lot of teams' main focus is to go and fight for the spawns for P2, which is in front of the police station. And then P3 is over on the left side of the map. If you're looking at the mini-map, it's in the courtyard by the fountain. And then the P4, which is the last hill on the map, is on the street side over by the gold building. This Moscow was our map pick in this series, so we're starting on the bad side of the two. Generally, the P3 side of the map is the unfavored side, as P2 is such an influential hill in this map, and if you can start good side, you know, keep the P1 relatively 50-50 and get a good hold on P2, that kind of sets you up for success a lot of the time on this map. Yeah, so for the vast majority of this map, things were really back and forth. Even though we started bad side, we get a pretty good chunk of time on the P1. We get a good 30 seconds on that one, which is where we want to be. And Preston ends up making some good plays for us going into this P2, but unfortunately, we really hesitate at the front sofas area over here. We had some really good timing to kind of get through, get control of the hill, and, you know, potentially get those kills and spawn them out. But us being too slow right there kind of bites us in the back a little bit as Paris regains control, and we end up spawning in the back going into this P3. If we were a bit faster there, we could have been in a prime position to, you know, snowball a pretty big lead off the start here. But even though Paris does flip us, they don't get too much time off that hill, so we're going into this P3 up around 50 points or so. But P3 is a pretty hard one to break on this map, so you're going to see Paris kind of get a good chunk of time on this one. They pretty much get a full hold on this hill going into the street hill. Nothing too crazy happens on the street hill on this map. The first street hill, it's pretty back and forth. I think we end up essentially tying the game going into the second rotation. As of right now, it's pretty low scoring, 76 to 76 going into the second set of hills, especially on a map like Moscow where a lot of the hills on this map can be held relatively easily. This is a bit of a blunder by us here on this P1 to P2 rotation. We're holding the favored spawns going into this P2, which is exactly where we want to be on this map. We're contesting the P1, we're holding the spawns. But while going Eskies here, Eli cuts it short instead of going all the way around. So that allows Scraps to get through, and even if Eli is going through there, he needs to call that out and let his teammates know that it's going to be open for a split second in time. But a bit of a miscommunication there allows Scraps to essentially slip through, and he makes a really great play here, playing his life, and he gets the spawns for Paris going into this P2 since we can't quite flush him out of the top police building. So talking about the spawns a little bit more on this P1 hill, kind of the hinge point is this line right here across the map. If you cross over the plat, or, I mean, the line's not essentially straight like that, but if you cross over the plat or you get into laundry over here, those are the two things that block this back P2 spawn area, which is the main spawn point you're trying to contest going into the P2. But with the game coming down to this P1, spawns are a little bit less important, and our main focus is to just control one side of the map if we can, because if we're controlling one side of the map, whether it be the P3 side or the P2 side, we know where the other team's coming from, and it makes things a little bit less chaotic. So going into this third rotation over here, we're down in a little bit of a hole. It's a pretty close game, and we know these are kind of the closing moments of the map where we really got to step up. We do a good job of tracking Zaptius being alive here in the back P2 area as P1's popping. Mike plays a good corner, ends up getting the trade on him, so we're just, you know, kind of chilling here, maintaining these spawns. But yeah, our goal here is essentially just to make P1 as scrappy as possible while maintaining these P2 spawns, because if we can get a decent amount of time on this P1 and set up for a full hold for P2, it puts us in a really good spot to close out this game, as Paris won't be able to close out on the P3 unless they kind of get in and get a good chunk of time here. So after getting a full hold for the most part on that P2, we get in a scenario again where Paris is set up for P3. It's been a bit of a money hill for them on this map. We've had some issues breaking this one, and not too much is going to change here, but with how close they are to winning the game, breaking the 200 point mark, any time we can stall and get them off the point is super important here. So we're going to be pressuring this as much as we can while still keeping an emphasis on getting someone early to the street hill. All right, here at the tail end of the game, going into the street hill, things get all tied up at 2:17:17. Only a minute left on the game clock as well, which will kind of come into factor a bit later in the map. But this game's been really back and forth the entire time. A few misplays out of us kind of prevented us from closing this map out a bit earlier. But getting to the street hill, we just want to, you know, stay on the time as much as we can. Hopefully close out the hill here, but just make things weird for Paris so we can, at the very least, get the P1 without them winning on the street hill. We have a relatively good setup, but not having a trophy in the hill at that point in time allows Paris to get a really important nade kill to get out our hill guy, which allows them to break the hill for just long enough where we can't win on it. So at this point, when we can't win and neither can Paris, we make the decision to just give up the rest of the scrap time and I'll rotate to the P1. Since Paris had the street spawns for that last P4, it puts them in a really good spot to early rotate to the P1. So we need to make an emphasis here to kind of take some long routes to get over there. Luckily for us, Dylan wins a huge gunfight on Zaptius. It was a bit of a blunder on his behalf as he fell off the head glitch that he was standing on there. And that gunfight is kind of the one that really propelled us for winning, as Paris was 2 seconds away, 3 seconds away from closing out the map there. And at this point, things are getting crazy. We just need to stay in the hill. Paris is going to be trying to break it from every which way. Preston goes to hard block the P2 spawns a little bit to make sure no one spawned behind us. And then Eli gets a really big two-piece in the hill last second to secure the win in one of the crazier hardpoint maps we played this year to win the series 3-1.
Legion gonna be in a spot to lock this one up, as they'll only need 8 more seconds. A push from RØKKR is imminent, but where's it gonna come from? Are they gonna be able to read it? Attach is able to find the first and also stays alive. Attach has stayed alive, but he eventually does get found out. Players dropping from either side. Minnesota get enough bodies in the hill to at least a contest for the moment, as that will be 3 strong in the hill. The time stopped at 27 seconds. 2:41 to 2:47. Have Minnesota done just enough? Paris, they have to go for the break. There's one, there's the second. 2:48. Have Minnesota done it? And they